What if the loneliness you feel at 2 a.m. scrolling through someone else's perfect life is not a personal failure, but a perfectly engineered trap? What if the anxiety that sits in your chest every single morning before you even open your eyes has been deliberately manufactured by systems that profit from your pain? What if everything you've been told about connection, belonging, and worthiness has been quietly rewritten by an invisible hand, an algorithm that has never once cared whether you live or die, only whether you stay on the screen one more second? What if the epidemic that is silently destroying more lives than any virus, any war, any visible disaster is hiding behind a glowing rectangle in your pocket? And what if, and this is the part that will change everything, what if the only way out is not another app, not another productivity hack, not another self-improvement routine, but something so terrifyingly simple, so radically human that most people will refuse to try it because it requires the one thing our world has taught us to fear more than failure, more than rejection, more than death itself? Stay with me. Because what you are about to hear will not just challenge how you think, it will challenge who you have been performing yourself to be. What if the most dangerous thing in your life right now is not a disease, not a broken relationship, not financial collapse, but the quiet, creeping feeling that no matter how many people follow you, no matter how many likes you collect, no matter how many comments flood your notifications, you are profoundly, achingly, invisibly alone? We are living inside an epidemic that has no news coverage, no government task force, no ribbon color assigned to it. It moves silently through families, through friendships, through entire generations, and it has been accelerating at a speed that should terrify every single one of us. We are more digitally connected than any civilization in human history, and we are simultaneously experiencing levels of loneliness, anxiety, shame, and disconnection that researchers are calling nothing short of a public health crisis. And here is the part that nobody wants to say out loud. The part that makes powerful people deeply uncomfortable. The algorithms did this, not accidentally, not as a side effect, as a feature. Think about what an algorithm actually is. It is a system designed with one singular, ruthless purpose to maximize your engagement, not your happiness, not your mental health, not your sense of belonging or your capacity for genuine human connection, your engagement, your time, your attention. Because your attention is the product being sold, and the buyers are willing to pay billions of dollars for even one more second of it. And what keeps you engaged? What keeps you scrolling past midnight when your body is exhausted and your soul is depleted? Not joy, not inspiration, not love. The research is devastatingly clear. The emotions that generate the most engagement are outrage, comparison, fear, and shame. The algorithm has figured out with machine precision that when you feel not enough, you keep scrolling. When you feel envious, you keep watching. When you feel outraged, you keep clicking. Your pain is extraordinarily profitable, and the system has been optimized to produce it at industrial scale. We need to talk about what this is actually doing to human beings, not in abstract statistical terms, but in the raw, lived, embodied reality of what it means to be a person in this world right now. There is a specific kind of suffering that happens when you put your phone down after an hour of scrolling and feel simultaneously overstimulated and completely empty. There is a particular kind of loneliness that comes from having 300 people comment on your post and still going to sleep feeling like nobody actually knows you. There's a unique form of shame that develops when you have spent months, years, perhaps decades performing a version of yourself online, carefully curated, strategically filtered, algorithmically optimized, and one day you look in the mirror and realize you have no idea who the person looking back at you actually is. This is not a weakness. This is not a character flaw. This is what happens to human beings when they are systematically separated from the conditions that make genuine connection possible. But here is where we have to be brutally, uncomfortably honest with ourselves, because it is easy to make the algorithm the villain and walk away feeling righteous. The harder conversation, the braver conversation is about what we have been willing to do to ourselves inside these systems, because the algorithm didn't force us to stop being vulnerable. It gave us the perfect excuse to avoid it. Vulnerability, the willingness to show up and be seen when you cannot control the outcome, is the most terrifying thing a human being can do. It requires you to risk rejection. It requires you to tolerate uncertainty. It requires you to be imperfect in front of other people and trust that you will still be worthy of love. And our entire digital culture has given us an escape hatch from that terror. We can perform connection instead of practicing it. We can post vulnerability instead of living it. We can collect followers instead of building genuine belonging. And we have been choosing that escape hatch, choosing it millions of times every day because it feels safer and because the algorithm rewards us when we do. But here is the devastating irony. The armor we build to protect ourselves from vulnerability is the exact same armor that blocks genuine love from reaching us. Every layer of performance, every carefully crafted persona, every moment we choose the curated post over the honest conversation, we are not just protecting ourselves from pain. We are blocking ourselves from joy. We are blocking ourselves from real belonging. We are blocking ourselves from the only thing that the research across every methodology and every population and every decade of study consistently identifies as the foundation of a meaningful human life. We need to talk about shame, because shame is the engine driving this entire machine, and we are not talking about it honestly enough. Shame is not guilt. Guilt says, I did something bad. Shame says, I am bad. Shame says, I am fundamentally, irreparably, unlovably flawed. And shame cannot survive being spoken. It cannot survive empathy. It shrivels and loses its power the moment we bring it into light and say, I am struggling with this, and I am still worthy. But the algorithm has turned shame into currency. Every filtered photo implicitly shames the unfiltered face. Every highlight reel implicitly shames the ordinary moment. Every viral success story implicitly shames the quiet, unglamorous, imperfect reality of most people's actual lives. We are being bombarded hundreds of times every single day with messages that activate our most primal fear, the fear that we are not enough. And because shame is so painful, so intolerable, we do what human beings have always done with unbearable pain. We numb it. We scroll to numb it. We drink to numb it. We stay busy to numb it. We perform to numb it. We create so much noise around ourselves that we never have to sit with the silence long enough to hear what we actually feel. And here is the brutal, beautiful, heartbreaking truth about numbing. You cannot selectively numb pain. When you numb the darkness, you also numb the light. When you numb shame and fear and grief, you also numb joy and gratitude and love. The same armor that keeps the pain out keeps everything worth living for out too. So what is the way out? And I want to be honest with you, the way out is not comfortable. It is not efficient. It is not going to go viral. It is not going to get 1,000 likes. It is going to require you to do the thing that this entire culture has been training you to avoid. The way out is wholehearted living. And wholehearted living begins with one decision, the decision to be seen. Not the performed version, not the filtered version, not the version that has been optimized for engagement and approval and algorithmic reward. The actual version, the imperfect, uncertain, still figuring it out, genuinely human version of you. This is not naive. This is not soft. This requires more courage than almost anything else our culture demands of us, because our culture rewards performance and punishes authenticity. Choosing to be real in a world that profits from your pretending is a radical act. It is, in the truest sense, an act of resistance. And we need to make a critical distinction, one that sounds simple, but will change everything if you truly understand it. There is a fundamental difference between belonging and fitting in. Fitting in is what the algorithm demands. Fitting in means monitoring what is popular, trending, rewarded, and shape-shifting yourself to match it. Fitting in means betraying who you actually are in order to be accepted by people who are also betraying who they actually are in spaces that have been designed to make all of you feel not enough. True belonging is something completely different. True belonging is the experience of being fully, completely yourself and being welcomed, not despite your imperfection, but with it. Not in spite of your struggle, but through it. True belonging never ever requires self-betrayal. And the paradox that will break your heart and heal it simultaneously is this: you cannot find true belonging by trying to fit in. The only path to true belonging is the path of being genuinely, vulnerably, courageously yourself. And that path begins not out there in the algorithm, in the comments, in the follower count, but in here, in the quiet, difficult, revolutionary act of belonging to yourself first. I want to talk about courage, not the Hollywood version of courage, not the dramatic, cinematic, triumph over adversity version, but the ordinary, daily, often invisible courage that it takes to live a wholehearted life in this world. The courage to have a hard conversation instead of sending a passive-aggressive text. The courage to say, I don't know, instead of performing certainty. The courage to admit you are struggling instead of posting your highlight reel. The courage to put down the phone and sit with another human being in their pain without trying to fix it or minimize it or scroll past it. The courage to say, I love you first. The courage to ask for help, the courage to be wrong, the courage to try again after failure without letting that failure become the final word on who you are. This is the work. This is the only work that matters. Not the optimization of your personal brand, not the cultivation of your follower count, not the performance of a life that looks good from the outside while you are dying quietly on the inside. The work is connection. Genuine, imperfect, vulnerable, courageous, wholehearted human connection. And that work begins, it has always begun, with one person choosing to be honest when it would be easier to perform. One person choosing to reach out when it would be safer to scroll. One person choosing to say, I see you and mean it. One person choosing, in the face of a system designed to keep us isolated and ashamed and endlessly consuming, to be radically, defiantly, beautifully human. The algorithms have built walls between us, using our own fear as the bricks and our own shame as the mortar. They have profited from our loneliness. They have manufactured our inadequacy. They have turned our most fundamental human need, the need to belong, to be seen, to be loved, into a product to be sold back to us in algorithmically curated doses that are just satisfying enough to keep us consuming, but never ever enough to actually nourish us. But here is what the algorithm cannot do. It cannot love you. It cannot sit with you in your grief. It cannot hold the silence when words are not enough. It cannot look into your eyes and reflect back your worth. It cannot forgive you. It cannot grow with you. It cannot create the kind of moment that on the last day of your life you will hold in your heart as evidence that being alive was worth it. Only people can do that. Only connection can do that. Only the terrifying, beautiful, irreplaceable act of being genuinely seen and choosing to genuinely see others can do that. The way out of the epidemic is not a new platform. It is not a digital detox, though that can be a beginning. It is not a policy or a regulation, though those matter too. The way out is you choosing one vulnerable, courageous, wholehearted moment at a time to be real, to reach out, to show up, to stay, to belong to yourself so completely that no algorithm, no metric, no follower count, no comment section, no curated stranger's highlight reel can ever again convince you that you are not enough. Because you are enough. You have always been enough. Not because you performed enough or achieved enough or optimized enough, but because you are human, and being human in all of its messy, imperfect, aching, luminous reality is enough. It has always been enough. And the most revolutionary thing you can do in a world that profits from your believing otherwise is to finally, fully, courageously believe it. We came here today talking about an epidemic, and I want to leave you with this truth. Epidemics end not when governments act alone, not when technology is regulated alone, but when enough individual human beings make a different choice. The hidden epidemic of algorithmic loneliness, shame, our disconnection will end the same way every great human crisis has ultimately been resolved, through the quiet, radical, world-changing power of one person at a time, choosing courage over comfort, authenticity over performance, and genuine connection over the perfectly curated illusion of it. The algorithm will continue to evolve. It will become more sophisticated, more personalized, more seductive, more effective at exploiting the gaps in your sense of worthiness. But it will never become more powerful than the human heart that decides today in this moment, with full knowledge of the risk, to be seen, to be real, to belong. That decision, made by enough people, does not just change individual lives, it changes cultures, it changes what we value. It changes what we build, what we reward, what we pass on to the children who are growing up right now inside these systems, learning from us what it means to be human. So the question I leave you with is not a rhetorical one. It is the most important question you will face when you walk out of this room, when you pick up your phone, when you sit across from another human being who is also fighting this battle in silence. What if today, just today, you chose to be wholehearted? What if today you put down the armor? What if today you let yourself be seen? Because I genuinely, deeply, with every ounce of conviction that 20 years of research can produce, believe this: the world you are longing for, the world of genuine connection, of real belonging, of lives lived with courage and meaning and love, that world is not waiting for a better algorithm. It is waiting for you.